There we go. Okay. All right. So today we'll do a session that focuses more on the upper body. So start on your back and have your props nearby so you can reach them when you want them. Blanket, blocks, and maybe something with a little bit of weight to it. Although you can also imagine those weighted objects if you prefer. And then come down onto your back, relax your feet down, and take a moment here to breathe. Bring your head and neck into a nice neutral position as they relax on the floor. Take a long exhalation. And then inhale, fill up the lungs, expanding a little bit more to the back and to the sides than you normally do. Exhale as you begin to compress from the lower abdomen to the upper abdomen, to the lower ribs, to the upper ribs. When you're ready to inhale, expand again. And this time, see if you can expand more into your back ribs. So you feel those lowest back ribs broadening, widening, and pushing down into the floor as you inhale. So a couple more breaths like that, compressing the front as you exhale. Expanding, particularly the back, as you inhale. One more time, just the breath. Now as you inhale, bring your hands forward. So get ready to push into your knees. As you exhale, brace the core, compressing, 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 and lift your right knee to your right hand. And create some really good opposition there. So it's just right hand pushing forward, right knee pushing towards your chest. And there's no actual movement, but lots of isometric resistance. See if you can start to feel that resistance happen in the abdominals, as well as in that arm and leg. One more good breath, expanding your back, particularly those back low ribs. Compressing the front as you press. Good, and then switch it up. Lower the right foot, bring the left knee up. As you exhale, start to create that connection between the knee and the hand. That oppositional action here helps you zip through your core. And in fact, the more you push arm into leg, you might even start to shake a little bit from the core engagement that you're creating here. One more good breath, just isometrically pressing. And then inhale, bring that left foot down, both arms reach up. Exhale as you compress the core and lift both legs to tabletop. Let's just take a moment here to flex and point through the feet, spread through the toes, waking up ankles and toes here. Widen the bases of your toes as if you could push them into the wall. And if you remember from last week, you can also do a little of that inversion and eversion. So you're flexing the big toe side of the foot, and you're flexing the baby toe side of the foot, waking up inner shin and outer shin. And then give it a nice clean flex. Both feet, the toes are pulling towards you. As you inhale, lift your lower back, arch it away from the mat. As you exhale, press it down either into neutral or even lower, flattening it into the floor. Inhale, lift it up, arching into a back bend. Exhale as you press it to either neutral or an imprinted spine. One more time. Feel those back ribs purposely lift up off the mat. And then as you exhale, press it all down. Now place both hands on the tops of both knees and start to wake up that core isometrically, pushing your knees towards your shoulders and pushing your hands towards your feet. 2 more deep breaths here, expanding the back, compressing the front. 1 more. And then slowly place those feet down on the floor. Inhale, reach your arms overhead and reach your elbows towards the ceiling. So your elbows poke in the same direction that your nose is pointing. Take your fingertips down to the floor, making 2 spider hands here. Yeah. And just walk those spiders around a little bit. Walk them out to the sides. And walk them in towards each other. And then walk them towards your ears. Let those spiders explore that whole area of your mat that you can't currently see. And then pause and take a moment to notice your low back and your back ribs. Inhale, expand those back ribs and expand them into the mat. Widen and broaden your back low ribs so they keep contact with the mat as this time you walk those spiders away from your ears, straightening the arms a little bit as you reach those arms out. Yeah, reach those arms out away from you. Good, and then walk those spiders back in towards your ears. Take this a few times, walking the spiders away from your ears and then walking them in towards your ears. Yes. Now, keep walking those spiders away and towards, and notice what your back low ribs are doing. When you walk those spiders away and your arms get straighter, keep pressing your back low ribs down into the mat a little bit. Notice any tendency for those to arch up. Even when your arms get to their straightest point, take that opportunity to press the back ribs down. And then slowly walk those spiders in towards you and release the arms to your sides. So we're going to work the shoulder blades together. And that means tucking some of the meat of your arms and shoulders underneath you. And as you tuck the shoulders underneath you, bend your elbows. So tuck those shoulders underneath you. Arms by your side now. There you go. Good. Bend your elbows to 90 degrees. And tuck the meat and muscle of your shoulders and your arms underneath you, enough that you can feel the middle of your upper back, your upper spine lifting up away from the mat. Keep arching that upper back up away from the floor, and then push down into your heels. Start to lift the hips just a little bit. Yeah. Good. Now keep lifting your chest and your upper back more than you're lifting your hips. So in this case, you're prioritizing opening up the collarbones, and the hips will just barely be lifting. And then slowly lower those hips. Release your arms, slide or wiggle them out to the sides. Keep them bending at 90 degrees, but now bring them to goal post. So your elbows come out wide. Keep your elbows where they are. In fact, push them down into the mat firmly and lift your forearms and hands up to the ceiling. So you're internally rotating that upper arm. You're going to glue your elbows to the mat as you do this. And then slowly take them back into that goalpost position. Good. Now check your elbow position. Look to the left and to the right. Make sure your elbow is as high as your shoulder is. Yeah. Elbow as high as the shoulder. There we go.
So the backs of your hands might not touch the floor. That's okay. And then slowly rotate so those hands come up towards the ceiling. Don't let your elbows move. That's it. There you go. Now again, everybody has a different range of rotation. Feel it out. Slowly move through this range of motion. External rotation brings the backs of your hands to the mat near your head. And then internal rotation takes your arms up to the sky. Take them as far as they can go. Do this a few more times. Feeling left and right. Noticing the two sides. They might feel different. And then if you'd like to add a little bit of weight, you'll actually take hold of your hand weights or blocks. If you have heavier cork blocks, those work too. Or jars of peanut butter, what have you. And do that same range of motion. Now slow it down and pretend that your weights are heavier than they are. So you want to kind of create some isometric engagement, some unnecessary engagement along with what's necessary to actually lift these light weights. And move through that same range of motion. Pretending that these are 20 pounds. One more time. We're going to end with that internal rotation. Pause right here, wherever your maximum internal rotation is. Breathing, holding the weight, pretending those weights are 20 pounds. Expand on the inhale. And compress on the exhale. And then slowly bring those arms back to goalpost. We're gonna hug the elbows in towards each other now. Keep hold of your weighted objects as you hug the elbows in and stretch your object straight up to the ceiling. So they're right over your shoulders. Good. Now, as you exhale, keep your right arm where it is. Keep that weighted object steady over your right shoulder, but open up your left arm to the left. Let the left arm hover just above the mat. Keep your arms and your shoulders as still as you can. Lift your feet up and roll towards your left side as if you're gonna twist. Keep that right arm reaching up. Roll to your left hip as you take those knees to the left. Good. Now feel what your right shoulder blade is doing. Hopefully your right shoulder blade knows to kind of slide behind the back of your heart because you've got a weighted object. But since this weighted object is pretty light, let's play with that shoulder blade action and punch that object up towards the ceiling, taking the right shoulder blade away from your spine for a moment, and then draw it back towards the spine. The object will get lower. Now punch that object up to the ceiling, move the shoulder blade away, and then take it back down towards your spine. One more time, just feeling that range of motion. Good, and then gradually take that right arm out to the right. Don't let the right shoulder blade or the right arm come all the way to the floor. Keep them slightly elevated. There you go. Now keep stretching your right hip away from that right shoulder as you sustain this lift. So your right arm is holding the weighted object. Flex your right wrist, meaning curl that right fist in towards the crease of your elbow. And then slowly bring yourself back to center. Legs come to center, arms reach straight up to the sky. So the heavier your object, the more you'll feel a stretch through the chest and the front shoulder.
So if your object is too heavy, feel free to put it down or take a lighter one. So this time we're gonna stretch right arm out to the right. Right arm is gonna hover. We're gonna keep this left arm very steady as we roll the entire rest of the body over to the right for our twist. So the knees roll right, you're rolling onto your right hip. You might keep those knees just a little bit apart here so the legs stay parallel. And then feel what your left shoulder blade does by default. We want to teach it when it's holding an object to stay in close to your spine, but play around with that position now. So take left shoulder blade away from your spine, punch your object up to the sky, and then take the left shoulder blade back in towards your spine and your object will get a little lower. So take that left shoulder blade away from the spine, punching up, and take it towards the spine, lowering your hand and your object. Everything else stays still. Take this one more time. And once you've seated that left shoulder blade close to your spine, open up the left arm again, super slow. Resisting the pull of gravity and never quite letting that left shoulder or elbow or hand touch down. They all float. Opening up through the left side of the chest. Picture the top of your left arm bone dropping towards the floor and hovering the lowest of the whole arm. And then slowly take your legs back through center and hug those legs in towards you. Rock and roll just a little side to side or forward and back if that feels good along your spine. Now we're going to put those weights to the side for a moment and roll onto your side facing me. Cradle your head on your bottom arm or place a block there so that your head is supported and in a fairly neutral position. And then as you exhale, lift your waist. Try to shorten the space between your ribs and your hips as you lift up, just lifting the waist. Good, reach that top arm up. Take this top arm through its full range of motion here. So sweep the arm up by your ear, swivel your elbow to point in the same direction as your nose. Good, and then reach it back up to the ceiling. This time internally rotate, take it as far as you can go with a straight arm, and then bend it to take it behind your back. Yeah. So we're going to move through this range of motion. I know you've both done this before. So at any point, you can add in a little bit of weight. Now that weight can be imaginary. So you don't even have to pick up an object. Just pretend that you've got an object or one that's heavier than it really is. And keep making sure that that elbow swivels to point in the same direction as your nose as you reach up by your ear. Don't worry if you have a slightly smaller or maybe even larger range of motion than I do. Just internally rotate for as long as you can with that straight arm. And then gradually take it behind your back, bending the elbow. Now with this internal rotation, it's very common for this top of the arm bone to roll forward here. And I'm exaggerating, but you might feel just a little of that pressure. So take your bottom hand and poke it. Send it back, even when you're internally rotating like this. Yeah. One more time through that full range of motion. External. Elbow points in the same direction as your nose overhead. And then neutral. And internal. Paying attention to that top of the arm bone, keeping it gliding back. Good. Slowly reach that arm up towards the ceiling. And then pull the elbow in close to your rib. Keep this external rotation here. Drive, let's take the knees back so they're in line with your hips, and then drive that bottom knee down. Keep lifting through the waist as you lift the hip. That's it. You can straighten out this top leg if there's room and breathe. Keep the top of your arm bone moving back. One more good breath. And then slowly release the hip down, close the legs. Place that weight down for a moment and open up into a twist. Bring your knees forward, stretch your top arm behind you. Find a little twist here. And this time you can completely relax through the shoulders and the arms. The legs can stay bent or one or two can straighten. Take about 3 more breaths, just focusing on the long inhale and compressive exhale. On your next inhale, roll to your back and all the way to your other side. So you don't have to be facing me, you can face either direction. Support your head with your bottom arm or tuck a block or a pillow underneath your head so your neck can be fairly neutral. And then as you exhale, engage this bottom side of your waist. Reach your top arm straight up to the ceiling. Focus on this top shoulder. So as you inhale, reach that top arm alongside your ear. Swivel the elbow so it points in the same direction as your nose. Keep the core engaged. And then reach that arm straight up to the sky. Good. As you take the arm down towards your side, you're going to internally rotate as if you're reaching for a sleeve, a second sleeve on your jacket. And when you can no longer keep that arm straight, bend it to bring it up your back. And notice what's happening with this shoulder. If this top shoulder rolls forward, and it almost always does, give it a little nudge. Keep the top of the arm bone pressing back. And at any point as you move through this range of motion, you can pick up a weight, or just imagine that you're picking up a weight and make the movement even slower against that real or imaginary weight. If any part of your range of motion does not feel good, if you feel any clicking or pinching as you move, avoid that part of the range of motion. You're going to work towards it and get as close as you can without strain or pain. Remember, in the internal rotation, you're taking that top shoulder back. Same thing with feeling like you have some limitations on one side that you don't have on the other. If you notice that, don't push. We're not looking to over effort. We're looking to put forth that effort just to the point of what's our current range of motion, and then maybe pause there, breathe. Keep the top of the arm bone moving back as you breathe. Staying aware of what the shoulder blade is doing as you move. There's really 3 bones coming together. One is the collarbone across the front. The other is this upper arm bone that we want to keep gliding back. And then the third is in the back, that shoulder blade, that triangular bone that you want to glide towards your heart and your spine. Now, slowly take this arm back up to the ceiling. Bend the elbow to about 90 degrees so the elbow winds up by your ribs. That's it. Check out that elbow though, make sure it's 90. You don't want to hold it, you don't want to hold the weight close to your shoulder here. And then keep your knees moving back. Wake up that deep core and lift your bottom hip. Keep the external rotation of your top arm. Lift the hip. If you need to, repeat and rest, or hold it, lift it, and extend that top leg. Breathing here. Slowly lower. Beautiful. Take the legs together. Release that weight to the floor if you were using a real one, and then open up into a twist. So bring your knees up towards your chest. Open up that back arm. Take it as wide as you like now, letting the shoulders fully relax. We did a lot of really controlled, slow actions through the shoulder blade and the entire shoulder girdle. And now we're allowing that area to relax. As you inhale, slowly come back to your side so you can roll into hands and knees, table position. And if the wrists are feeling tender, we're going to strengthen those wrists a little bit by coming up onto fingertips, gathering the fingertips in towards the center, like you're squeezing some imaginary object. As if you're trying to pick up a softball and dent it with your fingertips here. So squeeze those fingertips in. And then flip your palms up to the sky. So I'm going to have my fingertips pointing towards each other, but you may need a different angle. Try out a few different angles here. Fingertips diagonal, pointing towards each other, pointing towards your knees. Yeah. And if you're tighter in this top of the forearm, darker side of the forearm, then you may find you have to bend the elbows a little bit as you move through these different wrist positions. Good, and then bring it back to palms down, how we usually practice table. And if there's any tenderness, feel free to bring elbows down to the mat or elbows down to the blocks at any point. We're going to exhale, right leg back, touch the floor. Inhale here, expand into your back ribs like you want to push them into the ceiling. Now as you exhale, engage the deep core, lift that right leg up. Good. So we are going to lift this left hand, and at first it may feel like we can only just barely lighten it. But eventually, we want to move through that same range of motion we were just doing when we were on our side. So if you need to, you can tap that right toe down at any point. But when you're ready, reach that left arm forward. So you're reaching that left arm alongside your ear, and that elbow is again going to point in the same direction as your nose. Now sweep that left arm out to the left. Internally rotate so you can reach it behind your back for that second sleeve, and then bend that elbow. And then press the back of your hand into whatever you're touching there and breathe into it. Inhale, expand. Exhale, compress. Inhale, expand. Exhale, compress. One more time. And then slowly unwind everything back to table. Now send your hips back halfway towards child. Walk your hands forward. Stretch out the rib cage. Drop the heart towards the mat. Drop the forehead. Take 3 slow breaths here. Allowing the inhales to expand the back still. Allowing the exhales to compress the front. One more time. Keep this position. As you inhale, open up your right arm to the right. As you exhale, thread it underneath you, find a twist. Rest the right side of your head and breathe. Make a spider with your left hand. Walk that spider around. Yeah, that left hand makes a spider and walks around. Notice how that changes the stretch on the left side. And as you inhale, come back through center, coming back to your table on hands or on elbows. As you exhale, let's stretch that left leg back. Now we're going to start to make this right hand lighter. And when you're ready, lift that left leg up. You're going to zip through the core and use your left glute to reach that left leg back. Now, you might have to take your left toe down sometimes to stabilize, but as much as possible, exhales engage your core and your left glute, keeping that leg lifting. Then we're going to reach this right arm by the right ear. Keep looking down. So the right elbow points in the same direction as your nose. And then sweep that right arm out to the right. Feel that right shoulder blade scoop in towards your spine. Reach that right arm behind your back and then the elbow. Wherever your hand presses, breathe into that. Inhale. Exhale. A few more breaths. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathe in, expand the back. Breathe out, compress the core. One more. Now as you inhale, take it back to table, hands and knees. As you exhale, send your hips back halfway to child's pose. Walk your hands forward, find that stretch. So you get to choose, maybe you send your hips back a little more or a little less. But drop the heart and the head. Take 2 more breaths. As you inhale, come back to table. And as you exhale, stretch those hips back one more time for your twist. So this time it's your left arm that reaches out to the left. Then you thread it underneath. Let the elbow or the shoulder relax. Bring the side of your head down. You can prop the side of the head if you like. And now it's this right hand that creates a spider. And we walk this spider around. Feel that right shoulder blade move as the right fingertips move, exploring that little range. As you inhale, come back through center. As you exhale, let's come all the way down onto the stomach, with or without your heavy objects nearby. So we're going to stretch out the legs, stretch out the arms, and then rest the forehead for a moment. Let the spine be as long as possible here in this stretched out position. Now, on your next inhale, lift your chest and walk these spider hands slightly in towards you. So this is a variation on Cobra. Your spider hands push down into the mat. Your arm bones pull back and your heart presses forward through the arms. If you like, you can turn your toes under or keep the tops of your feet pressing down. Walk those spider hands away, slowly come back down to the mat. So at each inhale, lift the chest. Walk your spider hands in. Each exhale, you engage that deep core and slowly bring it back down. Inhaling, walk the spiders in, pull the arm bones back. Yeah, and then walk those spiders out. Lay the body down. 2 more like this.
If you have a slippery floor, you can also slide those fingertips. And now the next time you come down, rest your forehead on or close to the floor. Inhale, reach your arms forward, elbows point in the same direction as your nose. Exhale as you open up your arms like you're taking a giant swim stroke. And then internally rotate and bring your fists together behind your back. Let that help you peel your shoulders up and away from the floor. That's it. Now slowly extract the arms, reach them out like wings. As you sweep them forward, the elbows point to the floor. Sweep them out like wings. Internally rotate, bend those elbows, fists together. And extract them, reach them out to the sides and forward. So, huge range of movement for your shoulders. If it's helpful, put a block or a blanket or a towel underneath your forehead so that your neck can relax. Leaving the forehead resting on a prop can really help expand the range of movement of your shoulders. One more time. And then let the arms relax. As the arms relax, check in with how the shoulders feel. One particularly important point here is that when we take the arms behind the back and press the fists together, gravity here exacerbates the tendency for the shoulders to round forward towards the floor. So as soon as your hands go behind your back, lift your upper arm bones away from the mat. So try this one more time, and you can add in a little bit of weight, really just a pound or two, maximum 3, because it will feel like 30 pounds. And go through that full range of motion one more time. And as those arms go behind your back, lift your upper arm bones. Yeah, you might lift the chest and the head too, that's optional. And then slowly bring it all back down. Have your blanket nearby as you roll onto your side. Let's take that rolled blanket underneath your side rib. So either side that you like, but make sure it's not on your waist. It's a little bit higher under your side rib. And then your arm can support your head, or a block can support your head. Come all the way onto that side. And start with your knees bent. If you want more stretch, you can drop your head down a little lower. You can straighten out one or both legs. You can also reach that top arm alongside the ear and let that relax. Any of these variations are optional. Make sure you find a nice stretch somewhere in these top side ribs and breathe into those. Final option, take your your top knee forward. Let it drop down and relax on the floor. And then bend your bottom knee too, so that foot goes behind you. And you may feel a nice little hip flexor stretch in the front of that bottom hip as you breathe. Let yourself again relax into this. One more time, inhaling to expand back ribs and side ribs. Exhaling to compress through the core of the body. Now as you inhale, lift your front knees so you can bring both knees up in front of you again. And then use your hands to lift the torso and turn towards your blanket roll. This is another nice place for the block. Sometimes placing a block between the knees can help keep some good spacing for the iliosacral joint at the back of your hips. So anything between the knees to help the spacing, and then turn your rib cage towards this roll. Your feet, your knees, and your hips, they all stay pretty level. But you turn the rib cage towards this blanket roll, and maybe you use the hands to kind of drag yourself a little bit forward and down. Rest your forehead on your hands or on another block, and breathe in the twist. If you don't feel much of a twist, you can take your knees up closer to your chest. So you're going to bring these knees up towards your blanket and your chest. And again, one final option for the leg position. You might keep the bottom knee where it is, but stretch your top leg out. Really reach that heel. Bottom knee stays where it is. Top leg stretches out. Yeah. One more good breath. And then slowly using the hands, come all the way up onto the side. Take both knees together underneath you. All the way up onto your palm, lift your waist first. So feel, first of all, the shoulder and the waist. Slumping down into it, lifting up out of it. Slumping and lifting, yes. One more time, slump. Feel how your shoulder blade moves up and around. Now, as you engage the core, press this bottom shoulder away from your ear and take that shoulder blade around towards the back of your heart. Keep that upper arm bone back and the shoulder blade moving, scooping around the back of your heart as you lift your waist. Optional, lift the hips as well. Breathe. And then you can do whatever variations you like with that top leg and that top hand. But notice, if you put too much weight in this bottom shoulder, it's going to start to scrunch. Press it away from your ears, scoop it behind your heart. Yeah. Good. Slowly lower, and we'll take the other side. So we'll bring the other side of your ribs to this blanket roll. Making sure that it's not the waist, but a little bit higher. Some bony ribs hitting that blanket roll. You can always make this blanket roll higher or lower, depending on how much side stretch you really want. And adjust that side stretch by straightening one leg or straightening both legs. Or maybe reaching this top arm alongside your ear. And you know when you're reaching actively, you want to make sure that elbow points in the same direction as your nose. And then you can relax. Close your eyes, tap into the sound and the feel of your breath. One final option, you can take your top knee forward and let it drop down. And then the bottom leg can bend also. Let that foot go behind you. Wiggle it around until you feel maybe a little stretch in the front of the hip. And then once again, relax into it. Let the breath be the only thing that you're putting effort into. Let the arms and the legs relax. When you're ready, we're bringing the knees together again, and you're gonna bring them out in front of you so you can see them. Optional tuck prop in between those knees. Yeah. Use your hands, come up a little bit so your feet and knees and hips can stay where they are, and you're only turning your rib cage to this rolled blanket. And then you're settling those front ribs down on the blanket, resting the forehead, breathing here. Let the neck and the head relax. If one of your shoulders is feeling tight in this position, you can reach that arm back and just let the arm relax over the blanket roll, closer to, by the side position. Usually it's that arm that feels more behind you that needs to kind of flop back. And then finally, you also have that option to take your top leg and straighten it out and keep it a little more active here as you twist towards the floor. Couple more deep breaths. And then slowly unwind. Taking the knees together out in front of you, climb up to your hand. Put any props to the side and slide your knees back a little bit and focus on this new bottom shoulder, slumping and then pressing it back and down. And there's really a lot going on here because the shoulder girdle is so complex, but we're focusing on two main actions of this shoulder. We are pressing all of the bones of the shoulder away from the ear so we don't slump, but we're keeping the side of the neck long. And then in particular, this shoulder blade, it's scooping around behind the heart. So it's a little zoop rotation. It's a lot like what we do when we do this, when we take the arm out to the side with a weight or a band. It's a little scoop behind the heart. And now the hard thing is keeping all of that as you lift the hip. And no matter what else you do in your side bridge or side plank position, that drawing the shoulder away from the ear and scooping that shoulder blade behind the heart a little bit more than you think you have to, usually. That's what's going to keep that shoulder strong and stable. One more good breath here, scooping it around behind. And then slowly take it all down. Yes. Now we're going to place the upper back on this blanket roll. So shoulder blades go to the roll. If it feels like the floor is miles away, then you can support the head with another blanket or pillow. But try it out at first, just using your arms to gradually lower your head to the floor. And if it really has trouble getting there, or if you have to lift the chin a lot towards the ceiling to get your head to the floor, well then go ahead and use a second blanket or a pillow. But otherwise, try to get the back of your head to the floor with your shoulder blades on the rolled blanket. And then relax your arms out to those goalpost positions. About 90 degrees at the elbows. Let your shoulders cascade off of the blanket roll. They might not touch the floor, but they're definitely heading in that direction. And let the entire front of the trunk open up and now, 3 breaths, very actively. Pull your front ribs in and push your back ribs into the blanket or the space just underneath that blanket roll. Let the exhalations contract your upper abdominals, as if you were about to do a little abdominal curl here, but you're not actually going to lift your head off of the floor. Keep your head anchored, keep your shoulders relaxed, but 3 times actively engage your core as if you're about to do a little abdominal curl. Now, what you may feel happening and what you can see happening in my arms is that as I pull the ribs in, my arms start to get lighter and they even float up off of the floor, because bringing my rib cage in like this exposes the limitations in how much I can stretch across the front of the shoulder and the chest. Now this should feel good. It should feel like a nice opening across any tight areas that you have in the front of the chest. If it doesn't, don't go that far. But each time you exhale, pull in the front ribs like you're going to do a little abdominal curl, and let the shoulders and the upper arm bones get a little lighter. So gravity pulls you into this chest stretch. Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't move your arms at all. Your arms stay heavy. Your arms and shoulders are relaxed. The part that's moving is in your abdominals, like you're doing a little abdominal curl. Yeah. Now you can stay right here. If when you relax here, this feels like a good chest opener across the collarbones and the front of the shoulders. But for some people, including myself, if I relax here, if I let the abdominals relax, it winds up just being an abdominal stretch, which I don't really need. So you're welcome to adjust this blanket roll and take it down towards your sacrum so that it's supporting your hips instead of your shoulder blades for another variation on a supported bridge. And in this case, you could keep it underneath the sacrum, pull in those front ribs, relax your shoulders, your neck, and your arms, and then decide if you want to keep the legs bent or straighten them out. And again, highly variable. In some people's bodies, this will feel like a fabulous stretch through the front of the hips and the shoulders. In other people's bodies, it becomes very clear that it's just tightening the low back or making us reflexively tighten somewhere. And so it'll feel better to keep the knees bent. Tap into the sound and the feel of your breath. Let's say about 8 more exhalations, really long, longer exhalations now than you usually take. Even allowing for a little pause after the exhalation ends and before your inhalation. And after that 8th long exhalation, and any pause that follows it, slowly bend your knees enough to lift your hips and take any props out from underneath you. Lie flat on your back, neutral spine. And from here, choose your final relaxation position. So you might lie flat on your back and prop some other way with the blankets. Use any of the strategies for final relaxation that we have in the past. Or take your legs up to a wall or a nice heavy piece of furniture, and then open up the legs wide. One place that we did not get into extensively today is the inner leg. And so you might end with a passive inner thigh expansion here, letting your legs rest against the wall and separating them only as far as you need to feel this in the inner thighs. Letting the shoulders relax, letting the legs drop open. Gliding the chin towards your chest so even the back of the neck is long. And once you've found a position that the body can fully relax in, let the breath go. Let go of controlling it in any way. As the breath returns to ordinary, noticing that ordinary breath as it is. It's different from the ordinary breath you started this practice with. Continue to let the body relax for the next few minutes and have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us.